Yeah, so good afternoon, good morning, and maybe good evening, everyone. It seems that I'm the first one to present. And to introduce this workshop. Without further ado, I will share my screen as one does nowadays. And I will first start by thanking all the organizers, the presenters, and the audience, of course, for the excellent work they have done and for the great preparation of this workshop. Of course, we will all have preferred to meet face-to-face, so I'm sure this will happen in the not too distant future. And in the meantime, it's really wonderful that we can use tools such as Zoom or similar to be able to interact and to discuss. So I will not take too much of your time. I'm Patrick Maléjac, the Secretary General of PIARC, which is the World Road Association, founded more than 110 years ago. So we are older than the United Nations, if you want a reference. Our goal is to organize the exchange of knowledge, policy and practice on everything that is related to roads and road transport. I will present that a bit later. So we organize committees of experts, such as Committee 3.3 that Rado will present more in depth a bit later. We publish reports, we organize international seminars, and our lead members, the main members, are member governments from 125 member countries all over the world, as well as regions, so sub-national level, private sector companies, universities, and individuals. The way we work is, well, we don't have a team of hundreds of experts here in Paris, which is where we are located as the headquarters. We mobilize the experience and knowledge of more than 1,000 experts from more than 80 countries. So many of our colleagues are here in the room today, and I'm really, really thankful for the work they are contributing to PIARC. They meet in committees, task forces, they exchange best practice, they identify topics that they need to work on, they publish reports. They really, really are the engine of the association. And they publish reports on a lot of different topics. Here are just some examples. I'm not going to read through this, and I would just like to direct you to our webpage, piarc.org, where you can easily find all of these publications, and they're available for free. So our committees really are a way to organize a dialogue between peers, to build network. We're still here of people who met 15, 20 years ago in PIARC committees and who have become friends and who continue sharing tips and helping each other. And we started before 1909, in 1908, with the first World Road Congress, and we still organize such congresses. I will come back to that a bit later. We publish reports, but we also facilitate websites, which are a great way to share knowledge as well. And there is one on asset management. So I invite everyone to check this website. I'm sure it will be presented later. It's available for free as well. And it's a great way to present principles for the asset management topics, case studies, and links, of course, to detailed technical reports. HTM4 is a software that many of you are familiar with, I guess. PIARC, among many international and national organizations, played a key role in its development. It's still used in many countries, and it's still used in many new projects in all sorts of countries, high income, low income, and in many projects funded by multilateral development banks, such as the World Bank. We're now trying to update it with the World Bank, and we could talk about that at some point if you want. So many topics you can see here: climate change, freight, ITS, road safety, and asset management, which is, of course, the topic of today. And it's really key, and innovation in asset management is even more important because the road sector is really extremely dynamic. It's important to remember, because in some countries we hear that roads are really a transportation mode that should be reduced to as close to zero as possible. Let's not forget that today roads represent about 80% of all inland transport. So every improvement we can bring to roads has really remarkable positive consequences. So roads are key for equity, inclusivity, and accessibility. If you want to go to schools or to hospitals or to bring goods to markets in low-income countries, in high-income countries, usually you will use roads. If you don't have roads, you cannot go to school, you cannot go to hospitals. Roads are here to stay. They have also shown their resilience during the COVID crisis, and we're now working to build even more resilience into the road transport system, services and infrastructure. In particular, road maintenance is extremely important, and this is related to asset management, of course, and we hope that they are part of recovery packages that are developed all over the world, because roads really serve the needs of users. Actually, at the OECD, which is not biased like PIAC maybe could be biased, they label that building back better. And investing in infrastructure creates jobs and help boost the economy. So this is really what we're trying to support at PIAC. And let's remember that such decisions are good for the environment. When vehicles drive on well-maintained roads, they emit less CO2. And when, of course, not talking about asset management, but about traffic management, congested roads emit more CO2 as well. So let's be careful and focus on what we do and do so well, which really serves the needs of the road community. I mentioned congresses earlier. The next one on the horizon, and this will be my last slide, is going to be our World Winter Service and Road Resilience Congress, which will be online in February. I hope many of you will register and take part in the exciting discussions we're going to have in more than 60 sessions. We also organize many thematic seminars and workshops like the one we are taking part in today, but there's many more on the horizon. And we also organize the SERV 2022 symposium on pavement characteristics. That's linked to asset management, obviously. That will take place in Milano next year, September. The call for papers is still open, as well as another conference on road tunnels operations and safety. So today is one of many webinars we organize. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces and so many non-familiar faces. I couldn't say which one makes me more happier. And I will leave you here. And again, thank you very much, Gerardo, as chair of this committee, for organizing this event. Thank you. And I will remain with you if you have questions or remarks.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. It is my pleasure today to continue with the introduction for the seminar. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Sharing the right one. So continuing with the presentation of Patrick, and thanks for the introduction to PIAC. I will just use 3 minutes to introduce our committee. Our committee is part of the group on safety and sustainability, and focus on implementation of asset management frameworks, keeping in mind the ISO 55001, so we can manage our roads in considering their performance, the risk and cost in an effective and efficient way. The result of the products of this cycle will provide some guidance and will be included in the asset management manual that Patrick was mentioning a few minutes ago. We're looking into collected information and through a survey. So you haven't seen our surveys, I probably encourage you to talk with your first delegate in the country, because we have shared it through the group, and also you can email me and I'll be glad to provide. We're trying to feed information into this process. And this cycle, we are focusing on 4 issues. Innovative approaches for asset management that we are covering today, a little bit summary of the activities so far. Then there's a second working group that deals with the measures for improving the resiliency of the road network. There's another one that's looking about the renewal and rejuvenation of our aging infrastructure. And the last one will focus or is focusing on updating the asset management manual that Patrick mentioned before. And in line with these 4 groups, we have 4 seminars, webinars, excuse me, that we are planning to do. This is the first one, the focus on the works of the first working group on innovative approaches for asset management system. And then in March, we'll have the second one that focus on resiliency and then how it fits into asset management. And then we'll have 2 more in the following 2 semesters before we reach the end of the cycle. So I think that's all I have. If anyone have questions, again, we'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you so much. So if someone has questions, please please chat. Please use the chat system. So maybe in the Q&A sessions, we'll have the answer to one. So the next person is Gerardo Berardi, introduction to the webinar objectives. So Fernando, you take the floor.
Thank you so much, John. I don't know if you have, you can share my screen. Is okay.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Yes, let me check. Yes, as Gerardo has previously shown us, the asset management technical committee is mainly made up of 3 working groups. The first of them is I have the honor of leading, and this working group has the title and focus on the innovative approaches in the management of road assets. Each working group has a series of assigning tasks and certain deadlines for their execution. And regarding of our working group, we already saw from the first moment the need to divide the work and ourselves into subgroups to concentrate the responsibility and thus achieve the proposal goals. And in this way, we divided into 3 groups, which are the ones that can be seen on the slide, choosing a subgroup leader in each one of them and integrating the delegates by experience and interests in the field. Thus, the first group, led by Antonio Muruais, is responsible for evaluating the best practices to implement ISO 55000 in the management of road assets. Miguel Valdez, our Chilean colleague, leads the subgroup focused on life cycle and risk management of road assets. And Stefan Ober is the leader of the subgroup dedicated to BIM and digitalization in road asset management. Additionally, a transversal team was formed with Tim Massard and Ellen Klitsch to provide documentary support to all of them. Yeah. And this is those are our homeworks. And today we are going to dedicate some time to this webinar. And this webinar is presented by 3 main speakers. The first one is Chris Knowles. And Chris Knowles is the professional head of asset integrity at the Rail Safety and Standard Board in the United Kingdom. As a chartered engineer by profession, he has significant international experience in asset management gained across railways, aviation, highways, telecommunications, and utilities, both in consultancy and as a duty holder. He has held company directorships in the UK and Germany, and he has extensive experience in corporate governance, strategy, stakeholder management, and continual improvement. He has advised major organizations on asset management transformation and delivered certification assessment against ISO 55001 in critical infrastructure organizations such as Heathrow Airport, London Underground, and the UK's National Air Traffic Services. Please, Chris, whenever you consider.
Thank you, Fernando. I will share my screen, and thank you for the kind introduction. I just get that in present mode.
Hi, dear Chris.
Hello, Celso. Good to see you. So thank you. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. And as Fernando has described, I have the pleasure of presenting the work of the Working Group 1, looking at the guidance to the implementation of a 55,001 based asset management approach. Going to go through 4 key areas. Why asset management aligned to ISO 55001 matters. So a little bit about asset management just to frame it, and some of the key principles around the standard itself. The survey that's been done through the working group, certain parts of that are extremely relevant to the work that we are doing. And I'm just going to bring out some initial findings that have been prepared by my colleagues in analysis of the survey, and then give you a taste of the guidance that we're developing and what is to come. Part of that is going to be a request for participation and involvement in some case study research, of which more a little bit later on. So why 55,001? Why asset management? I think it will be well recognized around this forum that asset management starts at the point when we're considering the need for an asset all the way through the life of that asset or the asset system and to the point of its disposal or its transfer to a future owner. And getting the systems in place and the understanding of how we generate value from that asset base is fundamentally important to many organizations, including highways organizations, in whether they're regional or federal or local organizations. Done well, asset management does protect investment. It manages the performance of the business to meet those goals. Risk is clearly at the center of it. Not just around the risk around the assets, but are the processes we're using, seizing the opportunities and managing the risks that are presented to the business. How do we make sure that the asset base is performing at the right level and performing safely? So why 55,001? Well, it is that framework that ensures that asset management activities underpin the achievement of the goals of the organization. I'm often asked if a system is created that aligns to 55,001, will it be best practice? And that my answer is really that if you show me a system that doesn't have every component of 55,001 within it, then it certainly won't be best practice, of which more shortly. Some organizations choose to certify. That gives an independent view of the arrangements in the company and essentially a public statement that an organization has met all of the requirements of the standard. They may be operating at a maturity that's far more advanced, but they are able to demonstrate publicly that they have got that standard covered. It's just good business sense, whether that's in the boardroom all the way down to the work being done at the pavement level to deliver safe and efficient infrastructure. The structure of the standard, I'm not going to go through this in great detail, other than to highlight there are a few key areas in here to really bear in mind. Understanding the scope of the asset management system is really important. What am I including in the way that I'm managing these processes? If I take an example, well, 3 examples from aviation, I'm aware of one airport that included the whole airport operation within the scope of their asset management system, be it runways, terminals, car parks, the baggage systems, and so on. Another chose to implement by focusing on the airfield assets rather than the terminals to actually get focus in that particular area and improvement. And yet another decided to focus on a particular asset sector within their airport to drive improvement and demonstrate good governance in that area. The important thing is that the organization makes that decision and makes sure it's clear. There are a number of things around here, making sure we've got the right information systems in place, good strategic planning, risk-based, aligned to corporate objectives, coming round to the operational piece, making sure that we have good control at the point of delivery, including that interface with the supply chain, which is so fundamentally important. Because it's in the supply chain, it doesn't absolve us of the responsibility and the accountability for the delivery of the asset performance. And of course, we're going to have monitoring in place, not just of the assets, but of the effectiveness of systems. And of course, data, so crucial now in the delivery of that understanding. And of course, improvement. So on to the survey. A number of themes in the survey, and my colleagues from some of the other subgroups, I'm sure will talk about some of those areas. All of these aspects are fundamentally important to effective asset management. Our focus has been on the understanding of how policy is being implemented and the certification experience of the participants in the survey. And I'm just going to give a few highlights from the survey. I need to point out that this is the early analysis. There's a lot more analysis to do, which we'll talk about in the work programme shortly. So at a high level, 118 respondents across 50 countries. Really good response. I think you can never have enough respondents, but 118 respondents across the membership is great. And in looking at those organisations that have responded, public bodies, 68 of them, and private or semi-private organisations, 50. But I think the split of the role of the respondents within those organisations is really important. 35 at executive level. I think without exception, every organisation I've seen that has been successful in implementing asset management has had sponsorship and active leadership from the top table in making sure this is implemented. That big body there of 80 in the technical domain, clearly absolutely fundamental as well. It doesn't get delivered without the practitioners and the specialists who can actually deliver this. But that leadership at the executive level is great. Around the types of organisation, of the 58% that were in the public domain, we have a split between the state and the regional, the national and federal, and the local. And it's not an unsurprising split that the national road authorities would have quite an interest. And this cut of the data, I just really want to pull out a couple of those bars on the chart. The holder of a concession in charge of the asset, so they have the operation and maintenance handled by another company, and an integrated concession holder who is effectively in charge of the asset, the operational, the main aspects, the maintenance, the rehabilitation, the renewal. Because as we'll go on to in a second, that aspect of where the controlling mind sits associated with the asset management is tremendously important in considering the applicability of 55,001 to the arrangements. 6 of the respondents claimed to be certified, and you know, the countries there on the slide. And we've got a real mixture through the data of those who are choosing to align to the standard, those who are aligning to the standard and wish to progress to certification, and also some who are not adopting the standard. And all of these areas we're going to explore more in the case studies. Interestingly, 100% of the people who had gone through certification, who had adopted the standard with the rigor that would require, had said that they are in this for the long term. They have seen real value and benefit of carrying that work out. So I just wanted to touch on the application, and the need to demonstrate all of the requirements of the standard for an organization that is seeking alignment and certification. So am I the controlling mind? Am I managing a major component of the asset base as part of the life cycle? And am I providing specific interventions? And there's a spectrum. So as we go from the left side of the screen, carrying out a specific task, I'm doing a particular bit of work, say inspecting the bridge, right the way through to the end to having a long-term responsibility for the assets. The direct application of 55,001, certainly at the far right end, that would be an organization saying, I'm in control of the assets, I'm setting the strategy, I'm making all these arrangements through outsourcing. There's a direct 55,001 applicability. And typically, the further you go to the left, you are part of the client's asset management system and supporting. So that boundary between the purple and the yellow is quite fuzzy, each case on its own merits. But the principles are really important. And that may impact the number of people that have gone down the certification route. Certification periods, just very briefly, the standard came out, what about 2014, in its current guise as 55,001. So that period of people being interested in becoming certified is what we would expect. And the period that it takes to adopt a system and become certified, between 12 and 24 months, 24 to 36 months, not unusual, but it does depend on your starting point. And then across those 7 areas of asset management, interesting, this very first cut of data, that a lot of organizations saying they've got a medium to high understanding in each of the areas. And again, understandable, that's more a self-evaluation of the maturity in each of those 7 areas. Now, this is very high cut of the data at this point. So it's where we're going to take it and what we're doing next, because one of the key things for us to understand is not just those 7 different components, but how well they're integrated together. You need all of those parts to have an effective system. So our guidance, what will be included? Special features of asset management in the highway sector. What makes it special? We know that there's so much of asset management that transfers between sectors, but context is important. And making sure that the context of asset management and our guidance fits the highway sectors internationally is a key measure of the success of what we're producing. There will be a summary of the standard in the context of highways, and we're conscious as well, there are a number of updates in progress. 55,000, 55,001 are going through their routine refresh at the moment. A great deal of work going on from our colleagues in TC251 at ISO, which Soughah, I'm sure you'll be very close to. We're going to talk about the benefits and challenges of implementing a system in a road organization, big change management issues very often. And of course, we'll come back to the survey and give some more richness and detailed analysis from the findings. Now, the case studies I'll come to in the next slide because there's a call to arms for volunteers to be involved. And we will produce guidance coming out of this to help select appropriate routes for your organizations and for client organizations in adopting the standard and getting good practice in place, building on what is already there. So as we come to a close, we're going to use interviews with key people in organizations at different stages. We want to talk to people who are in the process of implementation, those who've been through the first cycle of implementation and can demonstrate they're compliant and are going through continual improvement, and those who've decided to take another path. There are lessons to learn and to share in all those organizations. And we want to do that across a cross-sector of members, geographically, in terms of the economy, in terms of the scope that they have chosen to put into their system. And then just to close, the program, we are in that process now of doing the interviews and case studies and getting the drafting in place for those guidelines, then through an iteration of commenting, improvement, and of course translation, with a view to us delivering for the World Road Congress in October 2023. Now that's a real high level and quick snapshot of the work that's going on. And I'd be very happy at the appropriate point in the webinar to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for the nice presentation. And before pass to the following speaker, I would like to remark all of you that you have the opportunity to make questions in our chat. And at the end of these 3 presentations, we are going to manage these questions, and we will try to answer you as much as possible. Regarding to our next speaker is Soughah AlSamahi. Is currently a civil engineer working in the Federal Road Asset Department in the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure in United Arab Emirates. She has experience in the development and implementation of the road asset management system, which was recognized as best practices in PARC, and she is currently continuing her PhD studies to specialize in payments. Soughah, whenever you consider, please.
Thank you, Fernando, for the introduction. Let me start sharing my screen. Is it clear to everyone? Yes? Yeah? Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Soughah AlSamahi, and I'm from UAE. And I think this is the first time someone from UAE is a part of PR. Therefore, I hope we add value to this committee. So today I'll be presenting to you the lifecycle and risk management progress so far, and what case studies we are going to present and share at the end of this cycle. So before I start, I want to introduce to you the contributing members in this subgroup. My name is Soughah, and along with me, I have my colleagues Miguel, Francis, Rabansis, Ulises, and Tim. So I'll start by briefing you about the case studies we decided to collect and share within this working group. And I'll be starting from with the case studies in UAE that I'll be sharing. So I decided to share with you 2 different case studies from the United Arab Emirates. As my colleague Fernando mentioned, I work in the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates, which is responsible for the maintenance and operation of the federal highways in the United Arab Emirates. And how do we do that? We basically have 2 main projects, the road asset management system and the performance-based maintenance contract. And because we have a lot of information, historical data from 2012 to date, we were able to basically evaluate and optimize our assets and operations. So the first case study I'll be sharing with you is related to the life cycle valuation. Recently this year, we obtained the 55,000 certification, which actually helped us in optimizing the life cycle of our assets. And one main useful system that helped us in obtaining these valuation is the road asset management system. Not only that, but the Ministry of Finance in the United Arab Emirates 2 years ago decided to establish their own federal asset manual. Therefore, we had to comply with their requirements. And with the historical information, we were able to evaluate our assets. Then this is what I'll be focusing in my case study. So as you can see, our assets approximately evaluate 17 billion because our country is a young country. Excluding the planning design costs. As for the second case study, I'll be sharing with you, it's related to the performance-based maintenance contract and how we manage it. We established the performance-based maintenance contracts in 2017. And it was introduced as a hybrid contract. Therefore, we used the work orders and the performance criteria because it was new in the region and we didn't want to risk it. Therefore, we defined 12 elements to be maintained as monitored in the performance based on our experience and historical data. And the results we got from this implementation is that we saved around 20% savings compared to the work orders that we used to do, and increased the happiness of the road users because of the different technologies and improvements we have done. And we actually received recognitions from the local authorities, and we've been sharing our experiences in the Gulf as well. Okay, moving to the next case study we will be presenting to you. My colleague Miguel will be presenting the case studies from Chile. So basically, the highway administration in Chile manages the roads outside the urban areas of the cities, and only 25% of these roads are paved, which implies that a great effort must be made to be able to pave the remaining 75%. In this sense, having a long-term vision, including the risk analysis with developing methodologies, can make the investment in priority areas, which currently cannot be done due to the low traffic volumes, which makes them unprofitable to invest in them. So this slide basically describes a model on how to analyze the risks and road infrastructure and thereby generate mitigation measures. The idea is that the projects that can be identified with this methodology are not subjected to purely economic evaluations, but that they can be self-sustaining by the mere fact of mitigating natural risks. And it must be considered that there are many strategic routes in Chile, which even though they have very little traffic, are still strategic and must be kept operational. Therefore, my colleague Miguel will be using this model to on Chilean network. And the central idea of the highway management is to technologically update the highway asset management systems. In that sense, the digitalization of the assets and their georeferencing is a priority task together with the automated monitoring of the pavement due to irrigation. And in terms of the life cycle management, models are currently being established to calculate the value of the road assets and to incorporate the bridge management, maintenance management with the models such as HDM4 and the others that are being under study. As for the case studies from Australia, my colleague Ulysses will be sharing his experience in Australia. To begin, I'll just brief you about the context of the road management in Australia. Australia has a large road network supported by relatively few taxpayers. This has driven the need for low-cost but high-quality roads that are fit for purpose. One of the significant aspects of the road asset management in Australia is that there is no single national approach. Instead, the states and territories tend to manage their roads with the approach that they believe best suits their particular needs. Therefore, with reference to the risk management, all Australian jurisdictions actually start from the same standard on risk management, but interpret them differently. It is the case that as the severity of climate change impacts have increased over recent years, some states such as Queensland are arguably experiencing the severest of those impacts compared to southern states. To get a better understanding of the natural of those risks, Queensland have recently been trialing a more detailed assessment of their residual risks by scoring the roads against a number of risk parameters related to the road and its environment. This provided them with an indication of the risks that informs them which actions are to be taken based on the different segments of the road. And as in terms of their life cycle management in Australia, they have some consistency across the country in terms on how the deterioration of the roads are modeled. One common model is provided by Astra Roads, which is occasionally revised to improve their accuracy. A revision is currently being undertaken based on the results of the long-term pavement performance project that incorporate the traffic speed deflectometer data, which is increasingly being used in Australia for determining the pavement strength. And again, because of the climate change, they're focusing on the climate change impacts and the model. Therefore, they're revising these aspects and will be addressing them in the future. Lastly, our colleague Francis will be sharing their experiences in Alberta, where their case study is basically focusing on the geohazard sites. Alberta currently manages around 500 geohazard sites through the Geohazard Risk Management Program. The Geohazard Risk Program basically assesses the risks according to specific guidelines to determine the risks they pose to the users. They are inspected, the geohazards are inspected annually or semi-annually, as shown in the pictures below. And Alberta is looking to improve their management for such sites and want to start implementing a formal asset management program to go beyond risk assessment rating. Therefore, to implement their geohazard asset management program, they had three main requirements to focus on. First, establishing a method for assessing the performance of the assets, and then another methodology for forecasting the performance of these assets, which is related to the geotechnical assets risk criteria that they've been done, they already did. And then lastly, they'll have to do a method for performing the life cycle cost analysis to optimize the best interventions to perform and when to, which is basically asset management. And in this sense, the life cycle cost analysis model will be able to assess the performance and will be able to give us performance forecasting using the risk-based deterioration models for each asset type, which are developed on average transition time from literature reviews or when available inspection data for similar assets in some field conditions. The technical information for the interventions or treatments that can be applied on the types of assets in different conditions. And the determination of individual asset value or worth will be determined in order to recalculate the replacement costs. And finally, the cost and effect of treatments is necessary to optimize the life cycle cost over the lifetime of the assets. Basically, this is a general overview of all the case studies we'll be presenting, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Soughah, for your presentation and for the rest of the members of this subgroup to deliver these case studies, very interesting case studies. And please, I would like to remark to all of you that you have the opportunity to prepare your questions in our chat with the idea at the end of this last presentation, we can manage the dialogue between us. Our following speaker is Natasha Blommaert. Natasha works at the Road and Traffic Agency in Belgium as portfolio manager, innovation and information and data management. In this role, she has been working for several years on innovative and data-driven asset management methods so that the agency can manage and maintain its assets even more efficiently and effectively. The implementation of building information management is one of the cornerstones of this, as an innovative method towards data-driven lifecycle asset information management. Natasha, your turn, please.
Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. As a member of the working group, I have the honor to provide a session on BIM and digitalization and asset management, and would like to tell you how we think about BIM and digitalization in road infrastructure asset management. And we hope also to inspire you for this innovative approach in building up your asset information and knowledge for lifecycle asset management. Because as asset managers, we all naturally face major challenges, not only to achieve smooth and safe mobility, but especially because we are confronted with aging infrastructure. That is why we want to make optimal use of possibilities of modern digital methods or technologies and what they can offer us and innovate. For us, BIM is just more than a buzzword, but it's a key to supporting the road authority of tomorrow as asset managers. Now, what is BIM? And which three meanings does BIM have? Working with the help of a building information model facilitates a new and more integrated way of collaboration between the construction parties involved by shaping these digital twins together. In addition, BIM modeling offers us the possibility to save on cost, to implement improvements from a virtual model during the construction process. And finally, BIM management ensures us that all relevant asset information is stored in a structured and uniform manner and can be used for asset management. So we're not only focusing in this presentation on BIM modeling, but also on BIM management, because the data is not only interesting during modeling the BIM model during the investment projects, the data becomes essential for operation and maintenance of the decades after these projects. Good asset management and maintenance of our road infrastructure is based on up-to-date, complete and trustworthy information about all physical assets in our management. Using BIM gives us the opportunity to efficiently collect available information around the entire life cycle of those assets by gathering the information once, as close at the source as possible, exchanging it in a standardized way. We can make the uniform data available to those who need it at any time during the entire life cycle, whether that is during the study phase of a project, or during the execution of the works on site, or during the maintenance in the period after. It should simplify the operations to better information and knowledge about the assets. BIM information is therefore central to our chain. A digital BIM model must, of course, contain the correct information, which is useful during every phase of the life cycle. What knowledge, data, information do we want to be linked to the BIM model, objects in the BIM model, and to represent the assets, of course. How can we ensure that every BIM model are shaped and transferred in the same manner and is structured enough for the coming years after that? For that, we recommend to create an object type library of OTL as a common language for uniform data exchanges. By using a BIM process and methodology in Tenders, it can give you a digital twin of our infrastructure. By shaping the BIM model from concept and design phase, embracing BIM modeling during the application of BIM in the study and construction phases, and after transferring it also of the phase to a central master data model or in an asset information management system of database. All parties involved use this central database of system throughout the entire lifecycle there. Therefore, everybody looks and enriches the same authentic source. By using this centralized master BIM model, which is the philosophy, of course, of building information management and asset information management. The only difference between the current work process, more classically on paper-based or in plans, and the work process with BIM is that you all collect the necessary information available at the source at any time on a uniform manner, very structured, and that the data is available for exchange for everybody. And everybody looks at the same source, of course. You don't make copies of it anymore, and that's a really important digitalized way of working. While everybody is still with their heads around the table, or have the shovel in the ground, is on site, and can pass on every data quickly and efficiently without much extra effort. That is why we recommend starting with including BIM in tender documents for investment projects, and so establish a win-win situation for every party involved. This is achieved, of course, by including guidelines and specifications, as well as a cost model in public tenders. There are a lot of advantages of building information modeling that can bring you into a project, and the most four common ones are the following. Working together around the central BIM model allows us to have a better collaboration with all partners of the project and involve more efficient work. We can, of course, use a central BIM model to detect design errors, to detect problems on site, possibly risks, much faster, earlier in the project. And on that way, we can support also much cheaper projects in totally, and have a better quality of the projects. A higher qualitative design results, of course, also in less unexpected costs and delays during the execution phase. So in a better project quality in total. Even when the cost of the design phase is higher due to more intensive collaboration and the inspection of the design, this should, of course, be compensated during the phases after that and the entire life cycle, because you have collected the right information during the whole life cycle. Furthermore, because we have less unexpected problems, there will be a higher quality of all phases, of course. So there's, let's say, the most important general advantages of BIM during projects and BIM modeling, but by implementing BIM management, you create a central asset information management system which provides data quality. You continue, have up-to-date information, stimulates reuse of data, and national water authorities can make the data available as open data according to registrations. Choosing for which purpose you're going to use BIM is very important. Yeah, you have to select the so-called BIM applications. We have divided them in 3 application groups: collecting information, which sources of information should be added to the model, which input are you going to insert in the model, then analyzing information based on available data in the model, for example, clash detections, simulations, 4D planning, and other analysis. And then communication and generating output, the third group, which output or deliverables can you generate based on a BIM model. And now I would like to explain a few examples or case studies to create those digital detailed BIM models of existing situations. We started in my example, Flanders, for the tunnels. And from thousands of plans of existing tunnel structures, traffic designs, lighting, safety equipment, and so on, and combine those with laser scanning point clouds for, example, for updating and detailing the BIM model. And then, of course, we now have 3D BIM models who can serve as a base for developing a vision for the future asset management of the tunnels. We have up-to-date information from the start of for every new renovation project. We have planning and preparation and maintenance work based on prospection without terrain visits anymore and closures of the tunnels. We have a virtual reality model for evacuation analysis for fire simulations and training, and the 3D location of incoming alarms and calls are also added to the model. Me and my agency are leading this BIMway as a contracting and asset management authority. And of course, we are implementing BIM as a digital information management system in all our works, not only for the tunnels now, but also further for all our assets. Working with BIM and BIM model facilitates also new and more integrated way of working together between all involved parties by shaping this digital twin together, like I said. And this is an example from Germany, where we are having BIM models used for properly prepare and large-scale structural maintenance to renovate outdated infrastructure as efficiently and sustainable as possible. For example, BIM offers the possibility to save on costs and to implement these improvements and virtually, digitally prepare the construction process. And the last example, you can see an example here for the use where we use road asset management system being the Incara system of the company ROAS. It's a multi-platform, functional and user-friendly system for technicians used to manage a huge amount of information. This system allows us to update information and building information, of course, via a BIM model, and manage to use that data in a unique tool that brings all detailed queries, reports for everybody on an easy way. And using this system, it is possible to manage and control the information from different fields and necessary in day-to-day management. So the long-term vision is focusing on a better, more efficient asset management, for which BIM, the methodology, can really help us to collect information and knowledge we need. However, on a short term, on a project level, BIM can already deliver you a lot of advantages and create added value to design and the execution phase for specific renovation projects. To manage the transport network as asset manager for the future, driven by innovation and digitalization, BIM is not only a buzzword, it's a step towards a digital twin. And we started to implement BIM, and we recommended to implement it among other things, of course. Asset management and asset knowledge becomes more and more important and provides us input for every asset domain, for decision making. And like we heard today, also a good life cycle asset management and decision making is based on up-to-date, complete and trustworthy information about all physical assets. We believe that BIM can bring you a driven force to shape a digital twin of your infrastructure, to build up the asset knowledge and information you need, and create this digital twin in the future asset management. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I would like to answer them in the chat or in the Q&A moments. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for the presentation and all the speakers, because you adapt very good the time that we have available to present the 3 sessions, and we respect these 15 minutes and maybe less than 15 minutes, but this is good because we have the opportunity to go to the next step, who is the questions and answer from different people. And I would like to check the chat, and maybe we have only in this moment only 2 questions. The first one is from Bart Volker. I don't know if it is possible, because we are only a few questions, if it is possible to make your question put on your microphone and formulate your question. Bart, please.
Yeah, sure, Fernando. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, my question was basically to find out if there is a relationship between the efforts that the global group IRAP is currently undertaking to develop a globally relevant methodology by partnering with road agencies and all other stakeholders around the world, a methodology that allows road agencies to inspect their roads by leveraging big data and machine learning techniques, and as such offer a solution that will be needed to meet some of the global safety targets that the UN has posed, looking at 2030. So I was just wondering if there's a relationship or a partnership or a dialogue going on between IRAP and what you are doing.
I think I can answer that. Thank you for the question. Patrick Malejak here. IRAP has good contacts with our Road Safety Committee, which is a different committee. It's chaired by John Milton from the USA. And they were, among others, contributors to our online road safety manual. So we have good contacts with IRAP about a specific project of theirs. It's really well known that the star rating has been used by the United Nations. The star ratings, I would say, according to some of our members, the star ratings work quite well in some cases, but not so well in other cases. In particular, when you have good accident data, it's probably preferable to use the data and investigate exactly where accident happens on a case-by-case basis, rather than a same-size-fits-all approach. And that basically many roads should be of very high design standards, which is much more expensive to achieve. So we're working with them indeed, but we're not particularly involved in that project that you mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for this intervention and to clarify this to Bart. And I would like, if it is possible, that the people who formulate questions identified, like, I don't know, I know that Bart is working in TomTom, but maybe it's good to say this. Yes?
Yeah, indeed. Good that you mentioned this. I'm indeed working in TomTom in a department called Sensor Sourcing that is operating our mobile mapping fleet. So our pool of cars that are driving around on all the roads globally to collect images and point cloud data.
Thank you, Bart. Very glad to be here with you. And the following question is from Munja Mujora. I don't know if you can formulate your question, and you can open your microphone. Munja?
No, thanks very much. My question has been answered already by Natasha Blommaert. Just with regards to the pavement management systems, is there any feedback on the development of that?
Natasha, could you answer the question? Because I think that Munja, where are you from, Munja?
South Africa.
South Africa, thank you. And your question is regarding to the pavement management system development, but the question is exactly which one?
I was just requesting on information on development of the systems and how they then tie into the overall asset management.
It's not only for every system, and I don't know the details of the INCAWA system so much. Most of the systems have an API that connects the data from the one system to the other. And you have, of course, in your whole application landscape, more systems than just one. And we are building, for example, of most of common is that you have building a really inventory information database, and that connects to decision-making databases of systems like, for example, bridge of pavement management systems. And most of the times there is an API, but you should contact a firm to know if it can manage, of course, with your API, and it can be integrated to each other. So that's a very detailed question, but it's most common that data flues perfectly to pavement management systems and bridge management systems for each other, for example.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. You have a question from Ricardo Solorio. Ricardo, could you open your microphone, please?
Yes. Do you want me to make
Sure.
my question? Okay. My question has to do with, you know, the management level of asset management can be the project level or the network level. And the question is, when you are working with the network level, how do you do with that much information that can come from a BIM application? How do you go through this for network applications? That would be a more clear way to make the question.
Okay, great. So on a project level, then you speak about building information modeling, right? Then you have a project, you model a BIM model during the whole life cycle of the project, and at the end of the project, you have a desire, of course, to give over the information to maintenance. So when you're modeling the model, you have to make arrangements about which information do you want in every phase to collect, and that's based on a standard you have to describe, and that's the object type library where I was talking about. That's the central chain of the system. When you don't have regulations or specifications of agreement of what your information need, and an object type library, for example, decides what kind of information needs you have. When you don't have that on a management level, then the uniform manner of working and provide information to a network level will not be really established, because every project can do it on another language, for example, and in the exchange other data. When you do it on a standardized and uniform manner, then you have to have an object type library who describes your information needs, and it's like a kind of regulation, a specification that's semantically correct data standard that you can use then to fluently use the information on a network level. And then, of course, when you have the information on the network level, you can use a lot of applications. You can have, for example, agreements with your partners who deliver data, confirm the OTL library to your system. You have regulations of possibility to exchange the data to other systems, like I explained, the pavement management system, and so on. So on a network level, I really recommend to have, first of all, a good agreement about the object type library.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. And I would like to make a question to Chris, because in the presentation of Chris say that not so much organizations are involved in the implementation of ISO 55001. Why is the reason? Could you talk about regarding to this? Why there is the reason that not so much organizations are involved in this?
Yes, it's a very fair question, and it is a choice for organizations as to whether they pursue a certification route or not, of course. I think there can be a perception that the assessment activity will be a tick box exercise. You know, do you have one of these? You go down the list and you check it off, and people may feel there is little value in it. Every assessment I've been involved with has been a really interesting discussion with the organizations to understand how the threads connect together, how the different processes work. You know, linking back into the BIM discussion we've just had, how does the strategy for asset information and the strategy for BIM and how things are described link through the project organizations into business execution? How does all of this stuff support the corporate objectives? So sometimes it's a perception of whether the certification process will add value. I think there can sometimes be a perception that there can be audit fatigue. You know, I have someone else coming along to look at what I'm doing. You know, I do this for ISO 9001 or for 45,000 or similar. If it's done well, again, it adds value. And some of those assessments can be combined so that many of the accredited certification bodies will provide combined schemes. So I think I would say of the organizations, you know, as we've said, Heathrow Airport, National Air Traffic Services, a number of organizations, I don't think I've ever seen an organization that goes through certification that hasn't made changes as they've gone through the process. I always say when I was involved in that kind of work directly, I will never know your organization as well as you do, but I may help you to understand your organization better. And it's that building on good practice and that reflection and the discussion that really helps. I think sometimes that isn't always necessarily seen as people are weighing up whether to go down that route or not. But it is a choice. I think the parting shot, I think I would say, is you can't mark your own homework. So whether you go formal certification or not, an independent view, a critical friend is always going to help make the system better.
Thank you so much, Chris. One question for Soughah, the presentation from Marta Gomez, Abertis Highways concessionary. Marta, I don't know if you can open your microphone.
Yes, thanks, Fernando. Here you have all the asset management team in the room, so you have all our attention. Thank you all for the presentations. We just wanted to have more information on the deterioration course that you have used for slopes and this resilient part for infrastructures. No, I don't know if we have time now to go through it, or if you can share it with the team later, but it's both topics are of interest for us. Thanks.
Okay, should I answer?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I forgot your name, Marta. Thank you for your question. I'll try my best to answer it. And maybe if you need more answers, we'll elaborate later. So as for the soil, as I mentioned in the presentation, the models that they will be doing will be based on the risk assessment. Therefore, in Alberta, the geohazards were assigned a level of risk from 1 to 200. And the Alberta Transportation defines the risk level as a product of the probability factor multiplied by the consequences to the safety and efficiency of the roadway, which is on a scale 1 to 10. And then for the modeling part, which will depend on the risk factor, they use the Markovian models. The Markovian models are usually used for the bridges and pavements, but Alaska Department of Transport has defined their models based on the risks. Therefore, the models are predicted on the asset condition or risk rating scale, which ranges from state 1 to no action needed to state 5 with major mitigation requirements. So it's a Markovian approach. Basically, maybe I can share with you the paper for your reference. I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, thank you. And if you can also share the part of the resilience analysis and for the whole network, it will be also appreciated.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marta, and the Abertis team, because you are participating in this. Not only Marta, I can see so many members of Abertis company. Thank you so much. And Joao, you have a question regarding to BIM and digital twins. Could you open your microphone and formulate your question, please?
Yes, Fernando, thank you very much. I think it's also connected somehow to the question that Ricardo mentioned. So the key challenge is to change the scope when we are dealing with the BIM and digital twin tools mainly used for project level, and then how can we change the scope to network level and progressively cover our existing networks, in many cases built decades ago. My question to Natasha, and I already got some insights on the chat, is how can organizations progressively use this kind of tools in existing networks? So I know that, for instance, LiDAR using laser scanning can help us to build digital models for existing infrastructures. And I think many infrastructure managers are also checking the usability of those tools in order to also use the potential of these digital twin concepts in existing infrastructure, as I said, in many cases built many years ago. So I think there is also a message that we can get from these presentations, is that the use of these tools does have to be limited to new projects. We can in the future extend the use of these tools, and they also can be very useful for infrastructures built a long time ago. As a single repository of data, that could be the most important outcome of this approach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very correct, indeed. The example from Flanders, the tunnels were existing infrastructure that's already dated, and we have upcoming renovations, and to prioritize and make the right decisions, we really did it. We scanned them and we really mapped them again, because the data and the plans were so old, they were not accurately anymore, and information was so scattered and paper-based that we really needed to have a new way of thinking and a new way of working to how this critical chain in our asset network would not be impacted, and that's why we also did the techniques of laser scanning above just starting from the new designs now in the design process of the renovation projects. So it's an end story, of course, but you have to choose your battles, of course. You can't do every old asset, scan it again, and collect every 1,000 plans that's in your closet. It's not really realistic, of course. You can use inventory tools to just prioritize your most critical assets and try to get them up to speed to collect the necessary data for the first step. And then, of course, from then risk-based management-wise, like ISO also describes, just try to come up in your system every step again to involve to a more innovative approach and a more future-based manner to work it. So I would really recommend to really choose your battles and to really choose your most critical assets. Try to inventory, try to use new techniques. I see also a question about AI. AI can be a very good tool to improve the data quality you now have. Most of the times we already have some information in GIS databases, for example. And when you already have that from your critical assets in GIS databases, now AI techniques of recognition of videos, where your dash cam video images, for example, can also be a new way of updating your data and improving your quality of your data, and be a stepstone towards really that asset information knowledge you're searching for.
Thank you, Natasha. Yeah, Jeffrey Savitsky, please, where are you from, Jeffrey? Could you open your microphone?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It was just a comment on the BIM where, similar to what Jose had said, you know, it's a wealth of data, and we're looking after networks that are, you know, 20,000 kilometers and more across the world, where, these asset managers have difficulty just dealing with the basic inventory and condition data. And when you throw BIM into the mix, it's going to cause overload for a number of these agencies where they can't store all the data because the data is huge. The point cloud is absolutely humongous, and they can't deal with the data that they have, right? So I think it's up to us as system developers to be able to help to pinpoint that information and pinpoint the most relevant data, like you just mentioned, Natasha. Focus on the critical assets, focus on the critical data, and pick the rest up as we go along. So it was more a comment than it was a question.
I don't know if Natasha, you have a lot of work today to answer so many questions regarding to BIM.
No problem. Yeah, I agree totally. And I think there's additionally on what you're saying, it's also really a matter of describing your information need. What information do you need to really support your system? And that we described in an object type library. And from that point on, you have a semantic data standard who says that is really the necessary information I need per asset. And then when you choose your critical assets, you just choose to only collect that and not everything around, or try to pinpoint some partners I know are involving in like a kind of migration projects where you can pinpoint the necessary data to a BIM model and really only collect in your old GIS system the first base you need as an inventory, and then just pinpoint to a BIM model, or vice versa, just really collect and migrate the necessary data from a BIM model to a GIS system, and work only on a project level, in investment project, really on BIM modeling. And after that, just collect what you as necessary need to future maintenance and operations.
Thank you. We have time for maybe a couple of questions, no more than this, to respect our schedule. And Luis Weichi, please. You have one question.
Thank you, Fernando. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for sharing your opinion and your comment and such a wonderful presentation regarding this important subject. My question is to every panelist. It's a very general one, but very important to understand. Could you share your opinion regarding state of the art of artificial intelligence and machine learning regarding asset management practices, please? Thank you very much.
Fernando, I could maybe offer an example that I've seen. I don't know if I'm qualified to give a statement on the benchmarking internationally of where the most excellent practices are in machine learning and artificial intelligence, but I'm aware of a really good example that's worth looking at with Transport Scotland, with their partners Amy, who developed some really good and I think class-leading use of machine learning on the Forth crossings, so the two road bridges that go across the Forth River just near Edinburgh. It's well worth looking at some of the case material around there from Transport Scotland.
Thank you so much, Rich. We have a comment from Estíbaliz Barañano from Asimov Company in Spain, and is regarding to the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning also. I don't know if Estíbaliz, would you like to make a comment? And we have only 1 minute.
Yes, we're a company, we're doing this asset management for traffic signals. Good morning, everyone, by the way. We're doing it, but we would like to know if from other experiences there is any metric, a specific metric about the efficiency gained in the updating of inventories and detecting early damage in the road surface and this kind of applications.
Yes, I don't know if I can answer your question because there are some companies involved in the development or different technologies to make a routine inspection on pavements, like to detect cracks or potholes or whatever, and after that to make an analysis with this data. There is so many companies, and maybe the state of the art in this sense is very high. This is my first answer. I don't know if any other colleague would like to add something regarding to my comment, to pass to the last question. Thank you so much. And the last one that we are going to formulate is from Dubra Ambayowe. Dubra, the last question, please.
It's not.
Yes.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's not much of a question, just a comment regarding the BIM models that has been discussed. Just saying one of the issues here in Ontario, Canada, is the 3D milling technology. And the BIM models, to my understanding, will be very helpful, helping us, to deal with this challenge, and also managing all of the challenges and investments with this technology. So that's something that we're, more or less taking seriously at this time, especially in the paving industry. And we'll basically connect with all of the other agencies and, of course, manufacturers who have more expertise in this regard, and try and understand it much better for future implementation.
Thank you, Dubra. And the last one is formulated from Eric Gabriel Jen, is regarding to the HDM4 and how to link the BIMs models and the BIMs methodology with this kind of software. Is that correct, Eric?
Yes, yes, that is correct. Sorry, I have my mic on. Yes, that is correct. And well, HDM4 is particularly used in a lot of developing countries and is data hungry. It has huge potential for use of varieties of data. So I'm kind of wondering, with the BIM model, how do you extract data from softwares like the HDM4 or the GIS into the BIM? Because right now we already have HDM4 set up, and we have it along with the GIS. So moving that huge amount of data to another software, whether there is some sort of technicality around it that maybe she could speak to.
Okay, Eric, only I can say you that there are a few software in the market that can link the BIM information with the HDM4 database to make the following steps to calculate different scenarios with HDM4. But I can send it to you some examples by email if you would like. You have my email. Okay, and we need to finalize this session with the conclusions. And I would like to share my screen a little bit, only a couple of minutes more. Okay. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Well, I would like to congratulate all members of our working group because they are collaborating in a very nice and active way. And it's very gratifying to see how these type of events are prepared with enthusiasm, trying to bring the best of each one. To prepare this webinar, no less than 10 meetings have been held between the members of the different subgroups, progressing little by little in the content and adjusting the times to show the sense and progress in our work in only 15 minutes or less than 15 minutes. As a general conclusion of this paper presented today is worth highlight about the implementation ISO 55001 in the management of road asset. There are few administration and concessionaries that have this quality mark, and with limited extension. It's very important to generate knowledge in this field and share experience. In this sense, the working group is in the process of publishing a guide to good practices based on the interviews. This is the first. The following that I would like to remark as a conclusion is regarding the very interesting cases has been presented regarding to risk management in certain environments and how both risk and life cycle of road assets are managed. General outline needs to be established to serve a basis for other highways agencies to identify models that can be applied in their context. And finally, everyone talks about digitalization being in the construction process, but we have seen that the main challenge of applying both is to coordinate the method from its origin so that it can be used for all its stages. Very good designs can be made and very successful construction process can be carried out by applying BIM methodology. And however, leaving a model that cannot be applied in road maintenance and operation. It is necessary to insist on coordinating the planning, design, and construction teams so that they prepare a valid model for the longest stage in the life of our infrastructure. We trust that our work will be very successful and useful for highway agencies that needs to have a state of the art to apply their decision in best practices and identify which one may be logical for the environment. Thank you so much, all my colleagues, for preparing this webinar in a very nice way. And thank you very much, all of you, for attending this webinar.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a nice one.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. And
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
So much,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.